never believed in ghosts. Not until I spent 3 nights in that apartment. Not until I found the rules written in desperate handwriting. Not until I discovered what was wearing my best friend's face. My name is Austin. I am 26 years old, and I am about to tell you something that will make you question every friend who has ever handed you a set of keys. This happened 2 months ago in downtown Seattle, and I am still trying to make sense of it. I am still trying to forget the things I saw, the things I heard, the thing that is still out there, wearing faces that do not belong to it. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in late August. The sun was beating down on the city, turning the pavement into a shimmering mirror of heat. I was sitting in my cramped studio apartment, scrolling through my phone, when I got a call from my friend David. We had known each other since college, roommates for 3 years. The kind of friendship where you do not need to talk every day, but you know the other person has your back. David was the reliable one, the guy who always paid his bills on time, who kept his apartment spotless, who never forgot a birthday. "Hey man," his voice came through the phone, casual and light. "I have got a favor to ask." "Sure, what is up?" I said, grateful for any distraction from my boring afternoon. "I am heading out of town for about a week. We're conference in Portland. My apartment is going to be empty, and I know you have been complaining about your noisy neighbors. Want to stay at my place? You would actually be doing me a favor. I hate leaving it empty for too long." I did not even hesitate. My neighbors had been blasting music until 3 a.m. every night for the past 2 weeks. The thought of a quiet week in David's nice downtown apartment sounded like paradise. The walls in my studio were so thin I could hear conversations through them. I had barely slept in days. Dark circles had formed under my eyes, and my boss had commented on my lack of focus at work. "Absolutely. When do you leave?" "Tomorrow morning, early flight. Can you meet me at my place around 6 p.m. today? I will give you the keys and show you around real quick before I finish packing." "Perfect. See you then." I should have noticed something was wrong right then. David's voice sounded normal, but there was something underneath it. Something I could not quite place. A flatness, maybe. Or a hesitation that was not usually there. Like someone reading from a script they had memorized but did not quite understand. But I was too excited about escaping my noisy apartment to pay attention to the warning signs my subconscious was already picking up. I spent the rest of the afternoon packing a bag. Clothes for a week, my laptop, phone charger, toiletries. I threw in a book I had been meaning to read and my headphones. Normal things. Things that belonged to a normal week of house-sitting for a friend. David's apartment was in one of those older buildings downtown. The kind built in the 1960s with thick walls and high ceilings. It was a nice place, nicer than anything I could afford on my salary as a junior graphic designer. 8th floor, 2 bedrooms, a living room with huge windows overlooking the city. I had been there maybe a dozen times for game nights and parties. It always felt comfortable, lived in, safe. The building itself was called the Riverside Arms, though it was nowhere near any river. The brick facade was weathered but well maintained. A green awning stretched over the entrance, and a doorman usually sat in the lobby during business hours. But by 6 p.m. the lobby was mostly empty except for residents coming home from work. I arrived at 6 p.m. sharp. The lobby was empty except for an elderly woman checking her mailbox. She had white hair pulled back in a bun and wore a cardigan despite the August heat. She glanced at me as I headed for the elevator, and I swear her expression changed. Just for a second. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something. Like she wanted to warn me about something but thought better of it. Then she looked away quickly, focusing intently on her mail. I nodded politely and stepped into the elevator, dismissing her reaction as the paranoia of an old woman living alone. The ride up felt longer than usual. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice, 3 times. I remember thinking the building needed maintenance. I remember the strange smell in the elevator shaft, like old flowers and copper. Like a funeral home mixed with a butcher shop. It made my stomach turn, and I breathed through my mouth until the doors opened on the 8th floor. When I reached the 8th floor, David was already waiting in the hallway outside his apartment door. That should have been my first real warning. Why was he standing in the hallway instead of inside? Why was he just standing there perfectly still, watching the elevator doors with an intensity that made my skin crawl? His hands were at his sides, not in his pockets like usual. His posture was too straight, too rigid. "Hey, David," I called out as I approached, my footsteps echoing on the tiled floor. He smiled. It was David's smile, the same lopsided grin I had seen 1,000 times. But something about it lasted too long. Like he forgot to stop smiling at the appropriate moment. His lips pulled back a little too far, showing a little too much tooth. And his eyes. God, his eyes did not smile with his mouth. They stayed flat and cold. "Austin, thank you for doing this." His voice was flat, monotone. Not quite right. Like a recording played at slightly the wrong speed. "No problem, man. Thanks for letting me crash here. You are really saving me from my insane neighbors." He held out a set of keys, 2 silver keys on a plain metal ring. Nothing special. Nothing that should have filled me with the dread I feel now every time I see a keychain. One key was slightly larger than the other, both worn from use. They caught the hallway light and seemed to gleam with something more than reflected fluorescence. "Here you go. Make yourself at home. There is food in the fridge, Wi-Fi password is on a sticky note by the router. I will be back next Tuesday." I reached for the keys. Our hands touched briefly and I felt a jolt run through me. His skin was cold. Not just cool from air conditioning, but genuinely cold. Like he had been standing in a freezer for hours. Like touching a corpse. I almost dropped the keys from the shock of it. "David, are you feeling okay? You seem a little off. Maybe you are coming down with something?" "I am fine. Just tired from packing. Long flight tomorrow." Again, that smile. That too long smile that did not reach his eyes. "All right, well, have a safe trip. Text me when you land, okay? Let me know you got there safe." "I will." He turned and walked down the hallway toward the elevator. I watched him go, keys growing warm in my hand, a strange unease settling in my stomach like ice water. He walked stiffly like his joints were not bending quite right. Like someone who had studied how humans walk but had not quite mastered it. His arms swung a little too much. His gait was just slightly off rhythm. Each step was measured, calculated, unnatural. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. He stepped inside. And just before the doors closed, he turned and looked at me one more time. His eyes were wrong. I cannot explain it any other way. They were David's eyes. The same blue-gray color I had known for years, but they were empty. Lifeless. Like looking into the eyes of a doll, or a corpse propped up and animated by something that did not understand what it meant to be alive. The elevator doors closed. I stood there for a long moment, keys growing warm in my hand, trying to shake off the weird feeling crawling up my spine like insects with too many legs. I told myself I was being paranoid. David was just tired and stressed about his trip. That is all. People act weird when they are exhausted. I had probably looked just as strange to him with my sleep-deprived face and bloodshot eyes from my noisy neighbors. I was reading too much into things. I unlocked the apartment door and stepped inside. Everything looked normal. The living room was exactly as I remembered it. Black leather couch facing a large flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. Bookshelf packed with science fiction novels and old textbooks from our college days. Coffee table with a few magazines neatly stacked. National Geographic, Wired, a couple of gaming magazines. The carpet was vacuumed in perfect lines. Everything was spotless. Too spotless, maybe. Like a show apartment that no one actually lived in. The kitchen was visible through an open doorway, clean counters gleaming, a few dishes in the drying rack. Plates and glasses arranged in a neat row. The sink was scrubbed clean. The stovetop shined. Down a hallway I could see 2 doors. One was open, revealing David's bedroom with the bed unmade, clothes scattered around like he had been packing in a hurry. The other door at the very end of the hallway was closed. A solid wooden door painted white, with a simple brass doorknob. Nothing remarkable about it. Just a door. But something about it made me uncomfortable. The hallway seemed darker near that door. The shadows deeper. I had never been in that second bedroom. David used it as a storage room, he had said. Just boxes and old junk, stuff from his parents' house that he had not sorted through yet. Holiday decorations. Old college textbooks. He could not bring himself to throw away. Normal storage room stuff. Nothing worth looking at. I dropped my backpack on the couch and explored the apartment more thoroughly. The bathroom was clean, almost sterile. Towels folded neatly on the rack. Toothbrush holder empty. Medicine cabinet containing only the basics, aspirin, bandages, antiseptic. The mirror was spotless, reflecting my tired face back at me. I looked worse than I thought. The lack of sleep was really showing. The kitchen was stocked with groceries, more than enough for a week. Fresh fruit in a bowl on the counter, bread in the bread box. The refrigerator contained milk, eggs, cheese, lunch meat, vegetables. Everything organized neatly, everything dated and labeled. David always was meticulous about food safety. The freezer had frozen pizzas, ice cream, a few frozen dinners, more than enough to keep me fed. I found the Wi-Fi password on a neon yellow sticky note attached to the router, just like David said. The password was a random string of numbers and letters, typical David security. I connected my phone and laptop. I made myself a sandwich and settled on the couch, flipping through channels on the TV. The sun was setting outside the windows, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The city lights were starting to flicker on below, a carpet of illumination spreading across Seattle. It was beautiful, peaceful, quiet, exactly what I needed. No thumping bass from next door. No shouting voices through thin walls. Just the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the distant sounds of traffic far below. As the sky darkened, I got up to turn on some lights. That is when I noticed the apartment was darker than it should be. The sun had set completely and I had not turned on a single light. The only illumination came from the TV screen, casting flickering blue shadows across the walls. The corners of the room had disappeared into darkness. The hallway was a black void. I flipped the switch by the front door. The overhead light in the living room came on, bright and warm. I walked to the kitchen and turned on those lights too. Better. Much better. The shadows retreated. The apartment felt normal again. I was heading back to the couch when I noticed something on the kitchen counter that I had missed before. A piece of paper folded in half, tucked partly under the toaster, just the corner of it visible. Something about it drew my attention. Maybe it was the way it was hidden, like someone wanted it found but not immediately, like someone had left it as a last resort. I pulled it out and unfolded it with trembling hands. It was a note handwritten in messy, hurried script. David's handwriting, I recognized the way he made his R's and the distinctive loop on his Y's, but it was shaky, desperate. The pen had pressed hard into the paper, tearing through in some places. Some words were smudged like he had been crying while writing, or bleeding. At the top, in all capital letters underlined 3 times, it said, "Rules." My stomach dropped. My mouth went dry. The sandwich I had just eaten sat in my stomach like a rock. Rule 1. When the TV turns on by itself, do not change the channel. Rule 2. Never turn off all the lights at once. Rule 3. Always keep the bedroom door at the end of the hall locked. Rule 4. Do not try to leave the apartment once you have entered. Under the rules, in even messier handwriting, barely legible, was a single sentence. If you are reading this, I am already dead. Follow these rules and you might survive. My hands started shaking. The paper crinkled in my grip, the sound too loud in the quiet apartment. This had to be a joke. Some kind of stupid prank David was pulling. He had a weird sense of humor sometimes. He liked horror movies. He liked scaring people. This was just him messing with me, trying to freak me out because he knew I would be alone in his apartment for a week. But even as I tried to convince myself, I knew it was not true. That handwriting was too frantic, too real. The desperation in those letters was palpable. You cannot fake that kind of terror. And David's behavior in the hallway. The cold skin, the wrong smile, the empty eyes, the way he moved like a puppet with tangled strings. I pulled out my phone and called David with shaking fingers. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. His recorded voice, warm and friendly, so different from the flat tone I had heard in the hallway. "Hey, you have reached David. Leave a message and I will get back to you." Beep. "David, I found a really weird note in your apartment. Some rules about TVs and lights and locked doors. What the hell is going on, man? This is not funny. Call me back, please, as soon as you get this." I hung up and stared at the note again. Rule 4 was the worst. Do not try to leave the apartment once you have entered. What did that even mean? I was not a prisoner. I could leave whenever I wanted. This was insane. This was not real. Couldn't I? I walked to the front door and grabbed the handle with a sweaty palm. It turned easily. The door opened. The hallway was empty and quiet, dimly lit by overhead fluorescent lights that buzzed softly. I could leave right now, walk down those stairs, get in my car, drive back to my noisy studio apartment and forget this ever happened. Call David from the safety of somewhere else and figure out what was going on. But something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the desperate tone of that note. The way those words seemed to scream at me from the page. Maybe it was because I needed to know what happened to my friend. Maybe it was something else. Something in the apartment that did not want me to leave. Something that whispered in the back of my mind, "Stay, stay, you cannot leave, you belong here now." I closed the door and locked it. The deadbolt slid home with a final sounding click. If you are watching this, I want you to think about what you would do in that moment. Would you leave? Would you stay? Would you laugh it off as a prank, or would you take those rules seriously? Drop a comment below and let me know, because I am still not sure if I made the right choice. I am still not sure if I could have actually left even if I had tried. I looked at Rule 3 again. Always keep the bedroom door at the end of the hall locked. I walked down the hallway, my footsteps sounding too loud in the quiet apartment. My shadow stretched long and distorted on the wall beside me. The door to David's bedroom was still open on my right, clothes and suitcases visible inside. But the door at the end of the hall, the storage room, was closed, waiting. I tried the handle. It was unlocked. The brass knob turned smoothly under my hand. According to the rules, it should be locked. The note said to always keep it locked. Did that mean I should lock it now? Or was it already too late because I had entered the apartment while it was unlocked? Had I already failed the rules before I even knew they existed? I decided to lock it. Better safe than sorry. I turned the small lock on the doorknob and heard it click into place. Such a small sound. Such a fragile barrier between me and whatever was on the other side of that door. As I turned away, I heard something from inside the room. A soft sound, like fabric rustling, like someone shifting their weight, like someone breathing. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob, my heart suddenly pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The sound came again, definitely movement. Something was in that room, something alive, or something that used to be alive. Hello? My voice came out weak and shaky, barely more than a whisper. No response, just silence. Heavy, oppressive silence that pressed against my eardrums. I pressed my ear against the door, the wood cool against my skin. At first I heard nothing. Then so faint I almost missed it, I heard breathing. Slow, steady breathing. In and out, in and out. The breathing of someone sleeping. Or someone pretending to sleep. Someone waiting. David, is that you? David, if you are in there, this is not funny, man. Still no response, just that breathing. Steady, rhythmic. Patient. I backed away from the door, my hand leaving a sweaty print on the white paint. My heart was hammering now, adrenaline flooding my system. This was insane. David had left. I had watched him get in the elevator. I had watched the doors close. He was on his way to Portland by now, or to the airport to catch his early flight tomorrow. There was no way he was in that room, unless he had never left, unless what I saw in the hallway was not David at all. Unless something had taken his place and the real David was locked in that storage room, waiting for someone to find him. I returned to the living room, my mind racing. The note said David was already dead. If that was true, then who gave me the keys? Who was standing in the hallway pretending to be my friend? And what was in that storage room breathing so calmly, so steadily, so patiently? I needed answers. I pulled out my phone again and called David. Voicemail. I sent a text, my fingers fumbling on the screen. Dude, this is not funny. Call me now, I am serious. Something is wrong. The message showed as delivered, but no response came. No 3 dots indicating he was typing. Nothing. I tried to distract myself by watching TV, but I could not focus. My eyes kept drifting to the hallway, to that closed door at the end. My ears strained for any sound from the storage room, but there was nothing now. Just silence, like whatever was in there had stopped breathing, like it was listening, waiting. The apartment was too quiet. Even the sounds of the city outside seemed muted, like the building was wrapped in cotton, like the whole world had moved a little bit further away, leaving me alone with whatever was in this apartment. Around 10 p.m., exhaustion finally caught up with me. The adrenaline had faded, leaving me drained and shaky. I decided to get ready for bed. Maybe in the morning, everything would make sense. Maybe David would call and explain everything. Maybe this was all some misunderstanding. I brushed my teeth in the bathroom, avoiding my own reflection in the mirror. Something about the lighting made me look wrong, pale, shadows in places there should not be shadows. My eyes looked sunken. My skin looked gray, like I was already becoming a ghost. I changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt in David's bedroom, trying not to think about the fact that I was wearing a dead man's clothes, trying not to think about Rule 4. Do not try to leave the apartment once you have entered. Trying not to think about the breathing in the storage room, I climbed into bed and turned off the bedside lamp. The room plunged into darkness. Complete, total darkness. I could not see my hand in front of my face. The darkness was thick, almost tangible, pressing against my skin like cold water. Then I remembered Rule 2. Never turn off all the lights at once. Had I just done that? I had turned off the kitchen light before brushing my teeth, then the bathroom light after brushing, then the living room light before coming to the bedroom, and now the bedroom light. All the lights were off. Every single one. I had broken Rule 2. The temperature in the room dropped instantly, dramatically. My breath came out in visible puffs of fog that I could see even in the darkness, illuminated by some impossible light source. The cold was intense, painful, like being plunged into ice water. My skin erupted in goosebumps. My teeth chattered. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Coming from the direction of the storage room. One step, pause, another step, pause. The sound of someone dragging something heavy. The sound of joints that did not move properly. The sound of something that should not be walking but was walking anyway. My hand shot out and slapped the lamp switch frantically. Nothing happened. I slapped it again, please, please, please turn on. Light flooded the room. The footsteps stopped immediately, cut off mid-step. The cold vanished in an instant. The air returned to normal. My breath no longer fogged. I sat there in bed, breathing hard, my heart trying to punch through my ribcage. I was covered in sweat despite the cold. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the blanket. The rules were real. Whatever was in this apartment, the rules were the only things keeping me safe. The only barrier between me and whatever that thing was. I did not turn off that lamp for the rest of the night. I barely slept, jumping at every creak and groan of the old building settling. Every time I started to drift off, I would jolt awake, convinced I heard breathing or footsteps or someone whispering my name just on the edge of hearing. Someone calling to me from the hallway, someone who wanted me to open that door. When morning finally came, sunlight streaming through the windows and painting everything in shades of gold, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Supernatural things could not exist in daylight, right? That was how it worked in movies and stories. Vampires burned in the sun. Ghosts disappeared with the dawn. Everything was safer in the day. I was wrong. So very wrong. I made coffee in the kitchen, the bitter smell helping to clear my head and wake me up. I told myself I had imagined most of it. The cold room, the footsteps. It was just my imagination running wild because of that stupid note. Because I was tired and stressed and freaked out, my mind had played tricks on me. That is all. The human brain is amazing at convincing itself of things that are not real, especially when you are scared and alone. But I could not explain away what happened next. I was sitting on the couch, coffee mug in hand, trying to decide what to do. Should I stay? Should I try to leave despite Rule 4? Should I call the police and tell them my friend might be dead in the storage room? But what would I tell them? I had no proof. Just a handwritten note that could be a prank and a feeling that something was wrong. The TV turned on by itself. I had not touched the remote. It was sitting on the coffee table, at least 3 feet away from me, exactly where I had left it the night before. But the TV screen flickered to life with a soft electronic hum, showing nothing but static. Black and white snow, the hiss of white noise filling the apartment like a scream stretched thin. Rule 1. When the TV turns on by itself, do not change the channel. I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold in my hands. My knuckles were white from gripping the mug. Why would the TV turn on by itself? What was I supposed to see? What was trying to show me something? The static continued for maybe 2 minutes that felt like hours. Then, slowly, an image began to form in the snow. A face. Distorted and grainy, made of pixels and interference, but definitely a face. A human face. Or something that used to be human. It was David. But not the David I saw in the hallway yesterday. This was David how I actually remembered him. His hair was messy, sticking up in different directions like he had just woken up. His eyes were wide with fear and something else. Desperation. His mouth was moving like he was trying to talk, trying to scream, but no sound came through except the hiss of static. His face was pale, almost translucent. Blood ran from his nose. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked like he had been crying for hours. I leaned forward, trying to make out what he was saying, my face inches from the screen. His lips formed words slowly, exaggerating each syllable so I could read them. The person who gave you the keys is not me. A chill ran down my spine, freezing every vertebra one by one. My coffee mug slipped from my hands and hit the floor, hot liquid soaking into the carpet. I did not even notice. David's face in the static continued, his expression anguished. He is wearing my face. Oh God, no. This was not happening. This could not be real. You got trapped. I wanted to look away, but I could not. David's ghost stared at me through the static, his expression filled with sorrow and desperation and something that looked like guilt, like this was somehow his fault, like he blamed himself for luring me here. His lips moved one more time, forming 3 final words. Best of luck. Then the image dissolved back into static. A second later, the TV shut off by itself with a soft click. I sat there in stunned silence. The apartment was quiet again, except for my ragged breathing and the drip of spilled coffee. David was dead. Really dead. And something had taken his place. Something that could steal faces and voices. Something that could wear a person like a costume. Something that lured me into this apartment by pretending to be my friend. I stood up on shaky legs, pacing the living room, trying to process what I had just seen. My mind was racing, trying to find a rational explanation. Maybe it was a video someone recorded. Maybe David had set this up before he died. Maybe it was all an elaborate hoax. But I knew better. I had seen the desperation in his eyes. I had felt the cold in the room last night. I had heard the breathing in the storage room. This was real. All of it was real. The rules made sense now. They were instructions left by David's ghost. Desperate warnings to help whoever came after him. To help me survive what he could not. Each rule was designed to protect me from the thing that killed him. The thing that was now wearing his face and walking around the world pretending to be him. But one rule terrified me more than all the others. Rule 4, do not try to leave the apartment once you have entered. Why? What would happen if I tried to leave? Would the thing catch me? Would I end up like David, locked in a storage room, slowly dying while something wore my face and lived my life? I walked to the front door again. The handle felt cold under my hand, colder than metal should be. I could leave right now. Get out of here, go to the police, tell them everything. Show them the note. Make them check the storage room. Find David's body and prove that whatever was walking around wearing his face was not him. But David's ghost had tried to warn me. Best of luck, he had said. Like I was already doomed. Like there was no escape. Like the moment I walked through that door yesterday, my fate was sealed. Before I could make a decision, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text message from an unknown number. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and read it. How are you enjoying the apartment? My blood turned to ice. My breath caught in my throat. Who was this? How did they have my number? Another text came through before I could respond. Do not worry, Austin. I will be back soon to check on you. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. This was the thing that had taken David's face. It was texting me. It knew I was here. It knew my name. It was watching me somehow, even when it was not in the apartment. I typed back with shaking fingers, my thumbs fumbling on the screen. What are you? 3 dots appeared, showing it was typing. They pulsed there for what felt like forever. Then the message came through. I am your friend. I am everyone's friend. I just need a place to stay. A face to wear. You understand, do you not, Austin? Everyone needs a home. Everyone needs to belong somewhere. And faces are so much easier to steal than to grow. No, I did not understand. I did not understand any of this. My mind was reeling, trying to process the implications. How many people had this thing killed? How many faces had it stolen over the years, over the decades, maybe over centuries? Where is David? I typed, though I already knew the answer. The response came quickly. David is still in the apartment. Did you not check the storage room? He is waiting for you in there. He has been waiting so patiently. He wants to show you what I did to him. He wants you to see what happens to people who try to stop me. My eyes shot to the hallway. The locked door at the end. Rule 3. Always keep the bedroom door at the end of the hall locked. David's body was in there. That was why I had heard breathing. That was why the door had to stay locked. Something in that room was still alive somehow, or undead, or something worse. Another text appeared. Do not open that door, Austin. Trust me. You do not want to see what is left of him. I was not kind when I took his face. I was hungry, impatient, I made mistakes. There was so much blood, so much screaming. It took hours for him to stop moving. Days for him to stop breathing. He is barely recognizable now. I dropped the phone on the couch, my stomach heaving. I ran to the bathroom and vomited into the toilet, my body convulsing. Coffee and sandwich came up, burning my throat. I heaved until there was nothing left, until I was just dry heaving and crying. This could not be happening. This could not be real. People did not steal faces. Things like this did not exist in the real world. But the evidence was right in front of me. The rules. The ghost on the TV. The text from something pretending to be my friend. I rinsed my mouth and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up at the mirror, I saw something written in the condensation. Letters forming slowly, traced by an invisible finger. The person who gave you these keys is not your friend. But now you cannot run from this apartment. You got trapped. Best of luck. David's ghost was trying to help me. Even in death, he was trying to save me from the same fate he suffered. I spent the rest of that day in a state of paranoia. I kept all the lights on, terrified of breaking Rule 2 again. I did not go near the storage room. I did not touch the TV remote. And I definitely did not try to leave the apartment, though every instinct screamed at me to run. I tried calling the police, but every time I dialed, the call would not connect. The screen would freeze. The phone would restart, like something was blocking me from getting help. I tried texting other friends, but the messages would not send. They would sit there with a little red exclamation mark, failed to deliver. I was completely isolated, cut off from the outside world, trapped in this apartment with a ghost and whatever monster was wearing my best friend's face. Before I continue, if you are enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends. I need to know I am not alone in this. I need to know someone out there believes me, because what happened next is the part I can barely bring myself to talk about. As evening approached, the apartment grew darker despite all the lights being on. Shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should, reaching across the walls like grasping fingers. The silence became oppressive, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sounds of the city outside that seemed to be getting further and further away. Around 8 p.m., I heard a key turning in the front door lock. I jumped off the couch, my heart in my throat, terror flooding every cell in my body. The door opened slowly, deliberately, and there stood the thing wearing David's face. "Hey, Austin," it said with that too long smile, that horrible smile that showed too many teeth. I forgot something. Mind if I come in? It was already inside, already stepping into the apartment, already closing the door behind itself with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid closing. "I thought you were in Portland," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "Change of plans. Conference got canceled." It closed the door behind itself, turning the deadbolt, locking us in together. "So I am back early. Thought I would check on you. Make sure you are comfortable." It looked exactly like David. Same height, same build, same face down to the tiny scar on his chin from a skateboarding accident in high school. But the eyes were still wrong. Still empty. Like looking into the windows of an abandoned house. "You should leave," I said, my voice shaking. "This is your apartment. I will go." "I should not have come here." No, you are my guest. Stay as long as you like." It walked past me into the kitchen, its movements jerky and unnatural. "I am just going to grab something real quick." I watched it open drawers, searching for something. Its movements were too precise, too calculated, like it was remembering where things should be rather than knowing instinctively. Each drawer opened at exactly the same speed. Each one closed with the same amount of force. "What are you looking for?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Just a tool. Something I left in here." It opened another drawer. Here we are." It pulled out a long knife. The blade caught the kitchen light, gleaming silver and sharp. At least 8 inches long. A chef's knife. The kind David used to use when he would cook elaborate meals for our game nights. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But Rule 4. Do not try to leave the apartment once you have entered. What do you need a knife for? My voice was barely audible now. It turned to face me, the knife held loosely in one hand. Its smile had faded, replaced by something colder, something that did not even pretend to be human anymore. "You know," it said conversationally as if we were discussing the weather, "I have been doing this for a long time. Decades, actually. Centuries, maybe. I lose track after the first 100 years. Time becomes meaningless when you are wearing someone else's life like a coat you can take off whenever you get bored." It took a step toward me. I took a step back, my heel hitting the wall. I find someone who lives alone, someone who will not be missed right away, someone whose life I can slip into like warm bathwater. I take their face, their voice, their memories, and I live it until I get bored. Then I move on to someone new. It is quite efficient, really. Why, David? I asked, desperately trying to keep it talking, trying to buy time though I did not know what I was buying time for. What did he do to you? Nothing. He was just convenient. Nice apartment in a building where people disappear all the time and nobody asks questions. Few friends who actually visited. Worked from home as a freelance programmer, so no coworkers to notice subtle changes. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. It smiled that horrible, too long smile again. And then he went and wrote those stupid rules before I finished with him. Left them for whoever came next. That was not very nice of him. That was not playing by the rules at all. The rules are keeping me safe, I said, though I was not sure I believed it anymore. Are they? It tilted its head at an angle that was just slightly too far, like its neck could bend in ways human necks should not bend. Rule 4 says you cannot leave. Do you know what happens if you try? Do you know what I will do to you out there in the hallway? Where there are no rules to protect you? Where it is just you and me and all the time in the world? I did not answer. I did not want to know. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. But here's the thing, Austin. It took another step closer. Close enough now that I could smell it. It smelled like chemicals in decay, like formaldehyde and rotting flowers, like a funeral home. The rules only work if you follow them perfectly. Every single one. No mistakes, no slip-ups. And you have already broken one. Remember last night, when you turned off all the lights? My back was against the wall now. There was nowhere left to go. That means the rules do not protect you anymore. That means I can do whatever I want. That means your face is mine now. It raised the knife, the blade catching the light and throwing reflections across the ceiling like liquid silver. I closed my eyes, waiting for the pain, waiting for the bite of steel in my flesh, waiting for everything to end. But it never came. I heard a sound from the hallway. A door opening. Not the front door. The other door. The door at the end of the hall. The one that was supposed to stay locked. The storage room door. I opened my eyes. The thing wearing David's face had frozen, its expression shifting from cruel satisfaction to something like fear. Real, genuine fear. The first real emotion I had seen on that stolen face. No, it whispered, the knife trembling in its hand. That door is locked. I locked it myself. I made sure. I checked it 3 times. Maybe I unlocked it, I lied, praying it would believe me, though we both knew that was not true. But we both knew that was not what happened. I had not been near that door all day. I had been too scared to even look down that hallway. Something was coming out of the storage room. I could hear footsteps. Dragging, shuffling footsteps. The sound of something heavy being pulled across the floor. The sound of joints that did not work properly anymore. The sound of someone who should be dead but was not. Someone who refused to die even after their body had given up. The thing dropped the knife. It clattered on the kitchen floor, the sound impossibly loud in the tense silence. Its face began to shift, the features sliding around like melting wax, like clay being molded by invisible hands. The mask was slipping. Whatever was underneath was starting to show through. This is not possible, it said, its voice distorting, becoming something else. Something that was not quite words, more like clicks and whistles and sounds that hurt to hear. You are dead. I made sure you were dead. I watched you stop breathing. I counted the hours until your heart stopped beating. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway, silhouetted against the darkness of the storage room. At first I could not make out details in the dim light, but as it moved closer, step by agonizing step, dragging itself forward with a determination that death could not extinguish, I saw what it was. David. The real David. Or what was left of him. His body was wrong, broken, bent at angles that should not be possible. His left arm hung uselessly at his side, the shoulder dislocated or worse. His legs did not move properly, dragging behind him as he pulled himself forward with his right arm. His clothes were torn and stained with old blood, brown and black in the dim light. But his eyes, God, his eyes were alive with rage and determination and something that looked like hope. Hope that he could save me from his fate. You took everything from me, David's ghost said, his voice echoing strangely like it was coming from very far away and very close at the same time. Like multiple voices speaking in unison. My life, my face, my future. You took my chance to say goodbye to my mother. You took my chance to finish my novel. You took my chance to fall in love. You took everything I was and everything I could have been. But I am not letting you take anyone else. Not Austin. Not anyone. The thing backed away, its stolen face melting away completely to reveal something underneath. Something without features. Something that looked like wet clay in the vague shape of a human. Something that had no eyes but somehow could see. No mouth but somehow could speak. No face of its own, so it had to steal them from others. I am older than you, it hissed, its voice becoming something primal and ancient. I was here before this city was built. Before this country existed. Before your species learned to walk upright. I have worn 1,000 faces. 10,000. I am stronger than you. You are just a ghost, an echo, a memory refusing to fade. You cannot stop me. Maybe not, David said, taking another dragging step forward. But I can slow you down. I can give Austin a chance. I can make you hurt the way you made me hurt. He lunged forward with impossible speed, his broken body moving in ways that defied physics and biology and everything I understood about how bodies worked. His hands wrapped around the thing's throat, fingers sinking into that clay-like flesh. They fell to the floor, thrashing and fighting. The thing screamed. A sound that was not human, not animal, something in between that made my ears hurt and my vision blur. It sounded like glass breaking and metal scraping and children crying all at once. The apartment shook. The lights flickered. The windows rattled in their frames. Austin! David's voice cut through the chaos, clear and strong. Run, get out now. The rules do not matter anymore. I am breaking them. I'm breaking all of them. The door is open, run! I did not hesitate. I could not hesitate. I ran to the front door, my feet pounding on the floor. Behind me I heard screaming and crashing and sounds I do not have words to describe. Sounds that no human throat could make. Sounds that came from something older and darker than anything that should exist in our world. I yanked the door open and bolted into the hallway. Behind me, the apartment was shaking. Light spilling out the doorway in wrong colors, purple and green in shades that did not have names. I heard David screaming, not in pain but in defiance. I heard the thing screaming back, its voice breaking apart into static and chaos. I ran for the stairs, not trusting the elevator, not trusting anything in this building. I took them 2 at a time, my feet barely touching the steps. Down, down, down from the 8th floor to the 7th to the 6th. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But I did not stop. I could not stop. As I reached the 5th floor, I heard an explosion from above. The entire building shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. An alarm started blaring. Behind me, I heard sirens starting in the distance. Someone had called 911. Someone had noticed something was wrong, down to the 4th floor, the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st. I burst through the door into the lobby, gasping for air, my heart trying to explode out of my chest. The elderly woman from before was still there, standing by the mailboxes. She looked at me with sad, knowing eyes that had seen too much over too many years. You got out, she said softly, her voice barely audible over the blaring alarm. Most do not. Most people who go to the 8th floor never come back down. Not really. Even when you see them walking around, it is not them anymore. What is that thing? I demanded, stumbling toward her. What the hell is in that apartment? Something old, she said, closing her mailbox with a soft click. Something that has been taking people from this building for as long as I have lived here. 50 years, and the people on the 8th floor keep disappearing. New faces move in, then they disappear too, and something that looks like them stays behind, walking around, living their lives, until it gets bored and moves on to someone new. Why did you not warn me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Would you have believed me? She closed her mailbox and started walking toward the exit. Would you have listened? People never do. They think I am just a crazy old woman. They think I am paranoid or senile, so I stopped trying to warn them. I just watch, and I count, and I remember their real faces before the thing takes them. She was right. I would not have believed her, would not have listened. I would have thought she was insane. She paused at the door and looked back at me. Your friend David, he was a good man. One of the few who tried to fight it. One of the few who tried to leave warnings. He saved your life tonight. Remember that. Remember him as he was, not as what came after. Then she walked out into the night, leaving me alone in the lobby as fire trucks and police cars started pulling up outside. I left the building and never looked back. I went straight to the police and told them everything. They humored me, took my statement with expressions that said they thought I was crazy or high or both. They sent officers to check the apartment. They found nothing. No body in the storage room. No creature. No David. Just an empty apartment on the 8th floor with all the lights on and a knife on the kitchen floor. The walls were scorched in places like there had been a fire, but the sprinklers had not gone off. The door to the storage room was open, but the room was empty except for a few boxes of old books. But they did find something interesting when they dug deeper into the records. The tenant record showed that the apartment on the 8th floor had been occupied by 17 different people over the past 50 years. All single men, all in their 20s or 30s. All had moved out suddenly, leaving no forwarding address. And in each case, within a few weeks of their move, a friend or family member had reported them missing. 17 people, 17 faces stolen, 17 lives erased. The police labeled it as a cold case. Too many missing persons, too little evidence, too much time passed. They said there was probably a rational explanation. Maybe a human trafficker using the apartment as a base. Maybe a serial killer who had gotten very good at covering his tracks. Maybe just a coincidence, though 17 identical coincidences seemed unlikely. But I know what happened to them. I know what is still in that apartment, waiting for its next victim. 2 weeks after I escaped, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost did not answer, my finger hovering over the decline button. But curiosity got the better of me. It always does. Hello? Austin! It was David's voice, the real David's voice. Weak and distant, like he was calling from very far away, like he was calling from another world entirely.
David, is that really you?
Yes, I do not have much time. I am fading. The energy it took to fight that thing, to give you a chance to escape, it used up most of what was left of me. I am disappearing. Soon there will be nothing left. Not even a ghost. I am so sorry, David. I should have known something was wrong. I should have helped you. A soft, sad laugh. You could not have known. Nobody could have. Just promise me something. Anything. Do not let anyone else fall for its tricks. If you hear about someone moving into the 8th floor apartment, warn them. Make them believe you. I do not want anyone else to end up like me. I do not want anyone else to spend their last moments being torn apart by something that steals faces like you would steal a coat. Promise me, Austin. I promise. I promise, David, I will never let this happen to anyone else. Thank you. Goodbye, Austin. I hope you have a good life. A long life. You deserve it after what you went through. You deserve happiness. Find it for both of us. The line went dead. I have kept my promise. I monitor the rental listings for that building every single day. Whenever I see the 8th floor apartment listed, I find a way to contact whoever is interested. I tell them my story. The rules. David's story. Everything. Most think I am crazy. Some listen but do not really believe. A few take me seriously and find somewhere else to live. But not all of them. 3 weeks ago, I saw the listing go up again. A young woman named Sarah had inquired about it. I managed to get her email address from a mutual friend who knew someone who knew her. I sent her everything. The rules, my story. David's story. Photos I had taken of the note before I fled. I begged her not to move in. I begged her to find anywhere else to live. She thanked me for the warning. She said she would consider another apartment. She said she appreciated my concern, but she had already signed the lease and paid the deposit. She said she did not really believe in ghosts, but she would be careful. Yesterday, I drove past the building. I could not help myself. I had to know. I looked up at the 8th floor, at that corner apartment with the big windows overlooking the city. The lights were on, and through the window I saw a figure. It waved at me. A friendly wave. A casual wave. It was wearing Sarah's face. I failed. Despite everything I tried, despite my promise to David, another person fell into that thing's trap. Another life stolen. Another face added to its collection. And I know it is only a matter of time before it gets bored with Sarah's life and moves on to someone new. Someone else who will receive a call from a friend they trust. An offer to stay in a nice downtown apartment while they are out of town. And a set of keys from someone whose smile lasts too long and whose eyes are empty and cold. If you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, if someone offers you their apartment keys and something feels off, trust your instincts. Do not ignore the warning signs. Do not dismiss that feeling of wrongness that crawls up your spine like insects with too many legs. Do not tell yourself you are being paranoid or silly or dramatic. And if you do find yourself trapped with a set of rules written in desperate handwriting, follow them. Every single one. Your life might depend on it. Do not break them even once, not even by accident, because the moment you break a rule, you are vulnerable, and that thing will know. It always knows. I still think about David, about his ghost trapped in that apartment forever until he faded away to nothing. Fighting to protect people he would never meet, trying to warn whoever came next, sacrificing what was left of his existence to give me a chance to escape. I wonder if there is anything left of him now. I wonder if some small part of his consciousness still lingers in that apartment, watching, waiting, trying to help. Sometimes late at night when I cannot sleep, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words, the same 3 words every time. I am waiting. I know it is the thing. I know it remembers me. I know it wants another chance to add my face to its collection. I know it is patient. It has all the time in the world. It has been doing this for centuries. It can wait a few more years or decades or however long it takes for me to let my guard down. But I also know I got away. I survived. And as long as I am alive, I can keep warning people. I can keep trying to save them from the fate that claimed my best friend and 17 others before him. I can keep David's memory alive. I can make sure his sacrifice meant something. So please share this story. Leave a comment letting me know you believe me. Let me know you will be careful. Let me know that if you ever encounter something like this, you will run. You will not ignore the warning signs. You will not dismiss your instincts. Subscribe to this channel so you will know if I ever have updates about what is happening in that apartment, because this is not over. As long as that thing exists, as long as it keeps taking faces and lives, this story continues. Last week I drove past the building again. I could not help myself. It is like a scab I cannot stop picking. I need to know who it is wearing now. I need to see if Sarah is still alive somehow. I need to know if I should be trying harder to warn people. The apartment was dark. Completely dark. All the lights were off. That had never happened before. In all the times I had driven past over the past 2 months, the lights were always on. Always. I parked across the street and watched the dark windows for an hour. Nothing moved. No lights came on. No shadows passed behind the glass. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello, Austin. It was Sarah's voice, but wrong. Flat. That same monotone quality I had heard in the fake David's voice. What did you do to her? I asked, my voice shaking. She was not strong enough. She broke too many rules. She did not last as long as I had hoped. 3 weeks is such a short time. Barely worth the effort of taking her face. You killed her. I needed a new face. Hers was getting boring anyway. But do not worry. I have been thinking about you. About your face. It would be perfect. You already know my story. You already know what I can do. That would make it so much more interesting. I could be you. I could live your life. I could call your friends and your family and they would never know the difference. Stay away from me. I cannot do that, Austin. You escaped. No one escapes. Not really. You are mine. You have always been mine. From the moment you walked into that apartment, you belonged to me. It is just taking longer than usual to collect you. The line went dead. I looked up at the 8th floor. A light had come on in the apartment. And in the window I saw a figure. Watching me, waving. It was wearing my face. Not Sarah's face anymore, my face. Like it had already taken it. Like it was showing me my future. Like it was inevitable. I drove away, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. I drove home and locked every door and window. I turned on every light. I have not turned them off since. I sleep with all the lights on now. All of them. I will never break that rule again. I do not know how it got my face when it has not killed me yet. I do not know if what I saw was a vision of the future or a threat or something else entirely. I do not know if I am already doomed. But I know one thing. I am not going back to that building. I am not answering any more calls from unknown numbers. I am not stopping my warnings. I am going to keep trying to save people. Because that is what David would have done. That is what David did do, even after death. And if that thing ever does catch up to me, if it ever does take my face and my life, I hope someone will find the rules I have written down. I hope someone will find this story. I hope someone will continue warning people after I am gone. My name is Austin. I am 26 years old, and I am one of the few people to escape the apartment on the 8th floor, but I do not know for how much longer. If you are watching this, please be careful. Please trust your instincts. Please do not ignore the warning signs. And whatever you do, if someone offers you the keys to an apartment in downtown Seattle in a building called the Riverside Arms on the 8th floor, do not take them. No matter how much you trust the person offering them, no matter how much they look like your friend, because they are not your friend. They are something wearing your friend's face. And if you go into that apartment, you might never come out. Not really. Not as yourself. I hope you never have to find out why.